Okay, folks, good morning. Happy Saturday. We're going to get right back into the Panzer II madness. So I ended up switching out the hatches on this MMS kit that had the wrong instructions on it. Told me to put the hatch in the wrong place. There's one hatch that has kind of almost like it's a flap type hatch, and one of them almost has like a little pistol port little window. And the instructions had me put it on the wrong side, and I should have just double checked it. But no big deal. We popped it off. We just need to repaint a little bit of stuff on there, and we'll be good to go. It was bugging me that the model kits were different. They all need to be consistent. All right. Well, we gotta get this over this area. Let's see if this color is good for yet another day. We don't need that. We don't need that. Let's see what we got here. Looks like it. Still there. Even the Panzer Gray is still there. All right, this is no good. This is long disappeared. The flow aid, which I think is something that's still available from Liquitex. It was just the goop I use for the basing that is no longer being made by them. Just touch up a little bit of the stuff that got messed up by having to pop that hatch off. I'm a little sluggish. I was up until I didn't get home until midnight last night. We're out playing a board game with the boys, and they always say, "Oh, it's going to be like a 3-hour board game." It wasn't. It was like a 6-hour board game, but that's fine. It was fun. All right. Good morning, Ben. Got this Panzer II that's now fixed. Maybe. Not going to get taken out by 45 millimeter, 46 caliber gun in the Russian front. I need to just set up a kind of a bogus battle just to see how these guys can going through the steps of the tank versus tank in the rules, which I've only read, I haven't played. Maybe we'll do that. We'll wait until my tiny, what is it, Tiny War Games battle mat comes in. I hope I didn't make the mistake of ordering the desert one and find myself wanting to get desert stuff. It's not that I'm not a fan of that campaign, but I don't want to spread myself too thin. Next thing you know, I got a bunch of honeys running around. I have no infantry for the desert, none. Other than the old Airfix figures. I got like 1 pack of Africa Corps, what was left, and 1 pack of Desert Rats, what was left. But I'm not planning on gaming predominantly with plastic figures. I'm a little worried about them bending and the paint crackling off. Thinking about your hesitancy to number a vehicle for the headquarters unit. Face of battle only handles a few vehicles at once. Having a headquarters vehicle might come in use. Yeah, I'm just trying to, I don't know what I'm going to do. If I was going to do France, which I'm not going to, but if I was going to do France, in other words, or Poland, a time period where these guys are on the front lines, where they're a main battle tank, they're going to have traditional numbers like everything else because they were part of companies. But the later and later you go, then more and more they're going to be relegated to recon stuff or headquarters. I just don't want to do some battalion commander or some shit like that and then find out that it's just a regular schmo. Oh, snap. But we'll see. We're probably going to wait until all those decals come in. I'm really disappointed that these numbers are freaking orange instead of yellow. I'm not going to put orange numbers on it. Thinking of something like Joachim Piper's raid, where he was at the forefront, allegedly in hand-to-hand combat with Soviet ski troops. I haven't read about that. But then I don't really read SS stuff. I'm not a fan of those dickheads. Nah, and a lot of the German stuff is suspect to whether or not it's really happened. And I got that book that I started by Rouse. And it's just like, I mean, there's no doubt that there was German units and that had a lot of experience that they, survived and they built upon it and stuff like that. But this memoir was like, if he had been everywhere at the right time, they would have won the war, kind of thing. So it was a little too over the top. I don't know. I'm sure I'll make the right decision when it comes to make the decision. We got one vehicle that we're going to do that is definitely going to have a weird numbering system, and that is the Artillery Observation Panzer III. And those definitely have weird numbering systems. You only know about it because it's on the Gravitine game. Is that, I guess I should just watch a video on it. Is that constant action, or is it kind of like combat mission? I think it's combat mission, the one where you give your guys orders and you tell them to move here, and you tell these guys to move here, and you hit play, and it plays like a minute of gameplay and stops again. I played a fair amount, If you look at the hours played, it's probably more than a fair amount of the. I should write down what the name of the game is. I can never remember what it is. Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront. And there's just some things I don't want to do in the game. I don't want to like click on guys and lay little minefields and shit like that. That's just a little, kind of like when you do DBA. There's some things that are kind of out of the scale of the actual game. DBA, when you're taking over like built up areas and stuff, it's not realistic that it's happening at the same time frame as everything else. Same thing when you're digging in trenches with your guys. They're done with one in like a minute or something like that of real time. It's like, that's just not very, that or laying mines or stuff like that. Graviteam is real time, which you can pause or give orders. Okay. Yeah, I wish I could pause this game. I think I might be able to. If I'm not playing the dynamic campaign, which is what I've been playing. I actually finished it with the Soviets. Kind of like a random event. Random encounter type of thing. Series of random encounters. I thought the game was really challenging, and then I played the Soviets, and I won like 15 games in a row. Now, some of them were difficult. So I was like, okay, well, now that I have an idea of how to play it, or a better idea, let me play the Germans. First battle, it's a problem. The problem with the game is that you basically start off with the same crap troops as both sides. So if you've got like conscript Germans or conscript Russians, the Germans don't have the advantage that they had historically in a lot of situations where they had more experienced troops. So you couple that with the fact that many of the German tanks can't deal with the Russian tanks as well. And I'm not even talking about heavies. I'm not even talking about KVs and T-34s. I'm just talking about, 45 millimeter armed T-26 is more deadly to another tank than a Panzer II. So, combat mission as we go. Combat mission came out about the time when my computer died, so I never really got a chance to play it. I think I may have played like one demo of it, and I wish the infantry were more fleshed out. In other words, a unit of infantry that might represent like a squad or two is represented by like 3 figures. If it had all the figures on there, I would have maybe liked it a little bit more, but maybe I'll have to watch the Gravity. You don't find the Gravity is very limited when it's only late 43 and that's it? You don't have anything else from that period? I think it's after Kursk, right? It's between Kursk and the winter. But it's not to replace this stuff. I think video games are inspirational for the actual painting, at least for me. Although I did encounter someone yesterday that had a bunch of miniatures and I said, "Oh, so you paint?" Nope, I have somebody else paint them for me. I'm like, crap. There's not there's a lot of folks that just don't paint their own stuff. So I don't need to fall into the trap of a non-painter. There's enough non-painters out there. They don't need me in their ranks. I was playing a battle though, yesterday or maybe it was the day before, where I had my units that had. I got them in a. I'd gotten a KV-1. I don't remember which one it was. It wasn't the one with the bolted-on armor. KV-1E. I don't think it was the KV-1E. Although I had one. But regardless, I had a KV-1 that got immobilized by a Pak-38. And they just kept shelling in it. And they had wounded some of the guys, and it was like only 2 people in the tank that were alive. And they ended up shelling it for, God, I feel like it was like 5 or 10 minutes. A long time. They kept putting round and round and round into it. I just basically left it for dead and went around somewhere else, and the guns were giving away their position where they were. Well, the one was, so I came up behind it and with another tank and took it out. Some 41-42 scenarios, they're fun, but the Germans have even less stuff capable of taking out T-34s. So whilst you whip on the Soviet infantry, a single T-34 section can halt your plans. Yeah, they're really pretty. They're really, you just can't deal with them. You know, you just can't deal with them. Hopefully the T-34 crew is like incompetent to balance things out, but that's why I commented somebody is that brought the armor yesterday. I said, "Oh, look, you've got one of my least favorite German tanks of all time. Probably my least favorite German tank of all time. And that would be a Panzer IIIN. I hate those things because they come out in 43, and at that point they decide to put a short 75 on it. And I know why they did it. They did it for infantry support, and some of them were used in Tiger tank battalions for, infantry support, like in Tunisia and stuff like that. But that's the wrong time to go back to that weapon. You can't deal with stuff. You could deal with you have a handful of hollow charge ammo that they might have in 1941 when you start encounter T-34s. It may be able to deal with them at really short range, but they're just brutal, Absolutely brutal dealing with those beasts. And it's not that the T-34 is that good, it's just that the German guns just aren't worth a shit. So, but I have a lot of tanks for the late 42 period, so which that one's, I think, pretty well balanced. But sometimes the best tank the Germans can get their hands on is a captured Russian tank. A captured T-34, We do the gunmetal parts on this guy? I think we did. Oh, no, we didn't. Okay. Yeah, Panzer III-N, definitely my least favorite German tank. You do any Black Friday shopping? I didn't. It's been years now that they're like, oh, this big shopping holiday is coming up. We'll just put the things back out like they were before, and people will just somehow think that they'll be enticed to buy it. And I don't need to buy stuff. If I need to buy it, I'm not going to wait till a certain time of the year to do it. Unfortunately, I don't really need anything. I actually went out and got an eye exam yesterday. It had been almost 2 years, and I thought my vision was kind of going. It ended up not really changing that much, but it's time to go get checked out anyways. And I'm like, well, let's stop into a store. And I went into the store, and it was something that my daughter said that she'd wanted to get. It's an inexpensive item. Some headphones for playing video games. It's like a $20 item. So we go in, look at a couple things, the wife and I. The headphones vary anywhere from $20 to hundreds of dollars. So I looked at the reviews of the product. Seemed to be okay for what it was, for occasional use. And then I looked at the line to check out. It was like a line that we were gonna waste 45 minutes or whatever, just for one item. So I checked at the price of it online on Amazon. It was exactly the same. It'd get delivered in a couple days. And I just bought it on Amazon and walked out of the store. It's unfortunate, but I don't have 45 minutes to waste waiting in. It's not waiting in line, standing in line. Like, days, my tolerance for that are like, there's no need for that, I'd much rather buy it at a store because it's right there. You can get it immediately, but you're trying your hardest to hold your wallet or at least make good decision. Though I did order a game mat and some latex rivers. Yeah, I'm curious to see how the game mats are going to be. I really didn't want a thin one that was going to crumple up. But the more expensive ones are more expensive, and you can't stick things underneath it to give it some undulations. So it's like, what do you do? I like the mousepad material ones. But for $30 shipped, that's a risk I'm willing to take. We have the cigar box gaming mats that are made somewhere nearby here. And I've seen them in person, and they're really flimsy, really, really flimsy. And I think these that I got from Tiny War Games are just as flimsy, but I think I talked myself into it being okay because of the price point. And also, I think having elevations and being able to stick stuff underneath is worth more than just having a flat surface that I would have to build like a custom hill. And it always stays that way. I don't know, so. I ruined the free postage on that sale. I don't know if it was an error, you know. It's not something I really need badly. I mean, if it's something that I'm going to do a game and I need something and it costs X, I buy it. You know, I mean, not immediately. I mean, I think about it. I'm like, okay, am I going to feel bad buying this or whatever? And yeah, I looked at it and I'm like, certain ones of them had free shipping, and I'm like, what would these have free shipping? And I looked at, well, what's the shipping normally? Oh, fuck! It's twice the price of the thing, which that's unreasonable. And I'm not saying that they're gouging us. I mean, I know that it costs people money to ship things across the pond. Now, it didn't before, but which, you know, it doesn't make any sense to me because I've ordered stuff from Europe and I've ordered stuff from the UK before Brettix. And when you order things from the UK, the shipping was, I'm going to say, the same as ordering for the United States. Really, really close. Really, really close shipping time. Really, really close cost. And Europe was like cost prohibitive. Like I've never ordered from Legio Heroica because their shipping rate was extremely high. But Britain was also in the EU at the time, right? So, but Britain was a lot less. So that doesn't make any sense. Like one's in the EU and is the same as the US or nearly the same. It might be like 10% more than the US. And Europe is like cost prohibitive. I mean Europe, I mean Spain and Italy. I've ordered from both of those places before. And then after Brettix, it cost a lot more than it did when it was part of the EU. It just doesn't make sense. It's almost kind of like it allowed someone to investigate that they were losing money on what they could have been charging. It's kind of like when you sell your house. Your house is valued at $100,000. Let me use a really low number, hopefully, but your house is valued at $100,000. When it gets, I forget what the terminology is, when they come in and they assess the value at 100,000. Well, if you sell it, it's going to go up in value. Just because it's almost like a chance to reassess the value of it. And I feel like that's what happened. That's what happened with the shipping rates in the between the US and the UK. You can see Tiny Wargames Max on Light Adventure if you find Raglan's threads. Not sure if he puts hills under the map, but they do look grand on his table. I saw several reviews on them, and they look really good. They look really good. So, yeah. You're saying that after I ordered those two things, they realized I made a mistake and they took the free shipping away? I don't know. I'm going to do an unboxing video on them, and it'll be free advertising for them, you know? And I don't want people to send me things for free because, you know, if you send me something and it's garbage, I don't want to not be able to tell people it's garbage. I mean, I don't have to be rude about it, but you know, so and that's the reviews I like to read. I don't look at reviews that are done by third parties that are, you know, like they're not allowed to say anything bad about them. But I have heard good things about Tiny Wargames, but just like everything else Wargame related, where does it come from? The UK. And that didn't used to be a problem, but now it's like, oh, the shipping is it's just brutal. And I just think that it was almost like a chance to reassess how much things were costing, and I don't know. It's only sad because it'll never come back to how it was. It'll never be like, okay, we can go back to the old rates of, you know, of how things used to be. Fortunately, it's not something that we can't live without. I don't really see as much as I like the mats that I've seen that have a built-in road and they look good. I don't see that that's very practical or that they're selling that many. I know that at least the cigar box, another weird name. Like, what these guys like to smoke cigars a lot. They had to name it cigar box mats. They have a lot of them that are like Shiloh or Gettysburg, or I don't know if they have Gettysburg, but I think they have a couple of like actual battle sites, which is cool. But then you have to base your figures in the right size scale so that they fit on that battlefield. So I don't think that's very practical, but they certainly look good. They certainly look good. I may just be using them to play game here because last night there was a beer issue that happened, and it wasn't me. I don't drink at nights. I don't drink much anyways to begin with, and I certainly don't want to drink at night when I have to drive. Yeah, it's 10 minutes. It's just not really across town, but you don't need to be tired driving at night. But we were playing a game last night, which was a lot of fun. Regardless that I won, that really did not matter. That's only exciting at the end. But it had a good narrative. But somebody spilled beer on part of the game on the map they were playing on. I'm like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to go down that road. Having to worry about that shit. I game with some interesting folks that seem to be able to drink a lot, and I never see them, ever see them take a sip of water. I would be dead. I would have to go to the frickin' hospital. I would have a headache the size of Nebraska because alcohol dehydrates the hell out of me, you know. So I'd have to be like, okay, one sip of beer, three of water, you know. I do much better with like scotch or something like that. Beer would just absolutely kill me. And these guys will drink like freaking 6 beers and never chase it with any water. I'm like, I would be dead at night. Nope. And I'd be falling asleep too. But I didn't grow up drinking alcohol and playing war games. I started when I was underage, so I never put the two together. So I took the opposite tack. I'm playing into the night until midnight, and I had 3 of these and a Starbucks. And I get home and I'm like wide awake. Yeah, a nap will probably be in order at some point today. But as far as online purchases go, I am notorious for, "Hey, I wonder how much this cost. Okay, let me put it in my cart. All right, let's add shipping. Oh, all right, let me think about it." And then not purchasing it. It's almost kind of like you get the thrill of the impulse buy without actually buying it. So I am pretty good about not really buying stuff that I need. Not buying things that I don't need lately. We've always made those purchases you regret. I've sold things I didn't use and used the money to buy something else that I also don't use. I don't feel so bad about it because I didn't use where the funds came from anyways. I'd sold a fair amount of my 2400 scale and naval stuff to buy all the Wings of War stuff, including the playmats and stuff. And I think I've played with my set maybe 3 times. And then I just haven't had an interest in selling it to somebody because nobody wants to give you anything for it. You can't really ship stuff like that. The shipping would just be really expensive. It's not a bad game. It's just I played it a lot, and it just kind of turns into the same thing over and over again. And for a game that's already pre-painted, it's a good-looking game with the miniatures and or the cards. I mean, the cards look very nice as it is. You don't need the actual vehicles the actual planes to have a good-looking game, but it is a good-looking game right out of the box. I will write that down though. Raglan's threads on Let Adventure. The problem with Let Adventure form, that's one of those ones that I've got to like use a password, right? I don't remember what the hell my password is anymore. Let Adventure. One of the things that I'm the absolute worst about is remembering passwords. And my wife has tried to teach me, "Oh, you need to use a password keeper." Yeah, but then I got to remember the password to the password keeper. And then you get this one, and oh, this one only works if you subscribe to it. I'm not going to subscribe to something that keeps track of passwords. That's a waste. So I got to use another one, and I don't know. Just there's some things you encounter in life that you just don't feel like they deserve for you to spend the amount of attention that they want to tell you that you need to spend doing it. And that might be software, it might be, instructions. I don't need instructions. I'll just go ahead and build this without instructions kind of stuff. You know. Mr. Curry, welcome. You can browse without logging in. I think his new project is Conquistadores, with a bit of fantasy twist in a Mesoamerican jungle. Absolutely lovely terrain, though. Oh, I better not look at that. The guys that do the pirate game, that do the Storm and Steel. No, what's it called? Blood and Steel, Firelock. They have teased me with doing a Conquistador thing at one time, and I said, man, it's going to be really tempting to do it, but I think I can talk myself out of it. I played a couple of their games at a convention, and it just, the engine's okay. Yeah, we just have to add a lot more detail to it to make it a little bit more exciting. I'm pretty sure I'm immune to 28 millimeter stuff. I just can't imagine how eternally long it would take me to finish something for me to be happy with it. I just don't want to devote that kind of time to that. I'm not looking for ways to slow down my process. I already take longer than most people doing things, and that's not like I get a rush out of it taking a long time. It's just, that's what I feel like it's got to take to get things looking to a point that I'm going to be happy with them. And painting in 28 millimeter just isn't one of those things. I did play a Conquistador game many years ago. It was a modification of Sword in the Flame. It's called The Cross and the Gold or something like that. And all I remember is I had like, me and a buddy of mine, we all had like a handful of Spanish. And we had to retreat up a pyramid, like what happened in real life, and fight these Aztecs off. I don't remember what happened. I think we won, but it was bloody. But there wasn't enough detail in there really to scratch my itch. And of course they supplied all the figures, so if you're supplying all the figures, I don't really care what scale we're playing in, but if you want me to contribute, there's just some scales I'm just not going to paint stuff in, like 12.5 millimeter or whatever the hell that Warlord Epic scale is. That's just silly. That's just absolutely silly that they came up with that. What, 10 millimeter, 12 millimeter, and 15 millimeter aren't good enough. You got to invent your own, you know. But that's my goal for World War II. If I'm going to do this, it's going to look stellar. It's going to look really, really good. It's going to look war games, soldiers, and strategy, or article level. Or I'm not interested in playing this, you know. Because I'll look at those magazines and be like, well, I wasn't interested in that period at all, but now that I've seen these pictures, I don't want to be all up in there, you know. I know it's just me, just being a modeler, but that's my goal. If I'm going to paint World War II stuff, I want it to look extremely enticing. And I think getting a game mat of that quality is a step in the right direction towards that. It's either that or, custom make. The teddy bear fur thing, that makes my head hurt to think how much work I would have to do just to maybe pull it off and it looked decent. I get a lot of stuff painted in the time period of making one mat. And just all those shavings everywhere, I can just already see where that's going. I don't think my wife would be very happy having those freaking teddy bear shavings everywhere. And that's assuming I could pull it off. And I watched a couple videos on it. Man, it just seems like extremely time consuming and a learning curve that I'm not sure I want to get into. And I've looked locally for that stuff. I'd have to order it online. There's just a lot of steps that just make my head hurt. Basically stayed with 15. He collected some micro armor back when I was in the army, but never did anything. Yeah, I had a whole bunch of micro armor. That was the first stuff to go. When I was just like, I haven't used this in a long time. Micro armor, first stuff to go. Micro armor and BattleTech. BattleTech miniatures that I had, which I think looked pretty good. I mean, if I took pictures of them now, I probably wouldn't be happy with them, but then the 1/2400 scale ships. That's really the only miniatures I've sold, those three things. Everything else I've kept, but that's really the only stuff I was ever into. It's not like I had a bunch of other scales and stuff that I was messing around with. All right, let me step away from this thing and see what I have done. I need to get farther away from this stuff. Let's put it next to the other one. All right, let me step away from it now. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Let me look at the decal situation. Here's one of your headquarters vehicles, RO2. That's from the Hasagawa Panther. I'm pretty sure. Okay, we've got this 221 that's yellow that we can use for one of these vehicles. That could fit on there. .632 is the right size, but in red. Okay, so that's a possibility. I do like the yellow on the Panzer Gray. I think it looks good. I think it looks really good. Those are gonna die. They're gonna crack all to hell when I take them out. Okay, that's the only one of those I use. Let's see if we got anything small enough in here. I don't think I do. Small enough for like a Panzer II. Well, these are kind of small. These are 187th. That might actually not be bad. And then the other ones that came with the S model, I want to use them on the S model. Seems appropriate. And that has a 412 and a 503. 503 is about this relatively small size. So the 221 is definitely fair game. I don't think these are going to be yellow enough. I could just try them anyways, and what the hell could happen? You know, they're no good. I might just do that. Try the 312 and the 216. See, they're pretty freaking orange. They actually look more orange in real life than they do on in the camera view. Let's do that. Let me take, well, for starters, let's get an X-Acto knife and a new blade. As soon as I can find where the hell I put them at. That's a good location for it. You discovered recently that Battlefront has published a new edition of Battlestorm Market Garden Campaign. I think I have it. I think I bought it I won it at an auction. I think I do. Or did I give it to somebody? I may have given it to somebody. I think I gave it to somebody. Unless this is it down here. I think that's it. I don't know, is it? Is it worth the damn to play it without ever going to the miniatures game aspect? I think that's it. I can't see back in there. So I looked at, I'm not a Flames of War fan, but one of the guys I played with, one of Mitch's friends from up north, we played last night. We played a Star Wars game, which was a lot of fun. Star Wars board game. And he had brought over his Flames of War stuff, and I looked at, he had a late war German book, and one of the Americans as well. And their books are awesome because they give you a lot of organization that I think is particularly interesting. And you know, stuff like on like the Panzer brigades that you can't find shit about, and it literally spelled out, you know, what vehicles are in what company. And once you know what company they're in, then you know what their the numbering system of those vehicles is. So I like all that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm not worried about the Iron Crosses at this point. That was one of them, and then the other ones were the set from here. Let's cut those off as well. Cut those out. Let's this can go back. Let's look at the instructions for wrong glasses. These glasses. I know that S model instructions couldn't be far away. surprise myself. Just to see which crosses go with which one. No. We're just going to cut 216 out. And 312. These should be yellow. That's why I got them. Not orange. Actually, the 216 is really small too. Well, if these work, I might actually have to put the number over a vision port. Blasphemy. You have to herd cats. Sounds like a work day for me. All right. Let's get a new brush for this. It would be helpful if I put this stuff in there as well. I like this better than having to spray the entire vehicle in gloss and then get into crinkle issues. Stuff actually smells pretty good. I don't know how the hell I want to put a German cross on a section of this vehicle. Just paint the whole thing. I can decide later where it's going to go. And I'll put some here in case that's a spot for it. And then one here in case I can squeeze one in there. Okay, there, the number on the side. It's pretty much the only places it could conceivably go. Reasonably go. We'll do the back as with this one as well. Same spot here. Same spot there. The whole side. This whole side. That spot. That's really the only places it can go there. Okay, and did this guy get completed? I think so. I'm going to go ahead and do it as well. The Panzer IIF. I mean, it's still going to have more weathering on it, but let's just cover this whole thing right there. Spot there. Spot here. I'm not even going to bother there. I'll put one on the back of the turret bin, although it's unlikely that I will put something there. And let it dry. All right. And we already have the bases for those vehicles gooped up. I got 4 of them. Now, I'll wait for that to dry for a little bit. We'll get some water and we'll be right back. Oh, the ones that have this little number, they put them on the hull, not on the turret. Interesting. The 312 has a solid cross. And the 216 has an open cross. Solid cross meaning with the center of it. Oh shit. Well, it's a problem with painting things that are gloss. Is it's hard to tell when they're dry because they're still shiny. Well, I guess the first thing I should do is find out if these yellow, supposedly yellow decals are worth a damn. Oh, I don't like that. Fuck. It was too thick on there. I may have to fix that before I do it. Wow. Interesting. Too thick there too. All right, maybe I'm not liking this material. Oh, well, that helped. We took off the thickness there. I may just not even use gloss coat from now on. It's going to cause that kind of a problem. So we got a spot there where it took off the paint. We'll let that one dry. That's totally fixable, but it's like, okay, now what do I effing do, you know? That seems pretty dry. All right, let's move forward with this one. Let's do, I wonder if I can fit that 312 in between the vision ports. Let's see. I think I might be able to. All right, we're going to make this one 312. And I may not like it because it's just looks too orange. But we'll give it a shot. What's the worst thing that can happen? I don't use these decals for anything else. I'm just going to cut 2 out. I don't need a third one. Said, this is just a test. This very well might not work. I may not be happy with the results. Yep. That's the vinegar smelling one. Yeah, I don't even know if I should even be using the gloss coat, considering I'm going to put this over areas that don't have... They're smooth. I mean, I know they're not completely smooth, but... They look more orange and less red, so maybe it's moving in the right direction. Who knows? Maybe it'll look okay when it's on the Panzer Gray. We will soon find out. Really should get a set of these that are plastic for this. But it'd just be something else I'd have to track down. I might be pleasantly surprised and just leave them as in orange. They look okay. They just don't look like what, you know, they're just too orangish. It's not like the style of them is bad or anything. I mean, other than the color, it looks great. Let me just put them on, and I'll know. It's either that or they're the wrong color. I'm just not going to use them at all. So I really don't have anything to risk. By doing them that way. Can this fit in between the two things? It'd be nice if it could. Man, I think it just can. Now, what if I decided to move it over this port? Just to see what it looks like. I actually like doing this a lot. It's very forgiving. I don't know if that looks that bad. Let's just put it there and see what it looks like when we're done. And then we'll move the other 312 back so they'll be closer to where the other one is on the other side. And these are the smaller ones, so the 216 definitely wouldn't have fit between them. It just doesn't look yellow. It just looks orange. It doesn't look bad, it just doesn't look yellow. I don't know if I'm sold on that. Like I said, that was the risk. It's like either use it on this, or don't use them at all. So I'm not really sold on it. It looks okay. It just doesn't look like vehicles. Let me step away from it. Damn Chinese decals. I don't think I can deal with it. I don't think I can deal with it in orange. It's just too orange. I don't want to repaint it over it. Not gonna look right. Not gonna look right. Not gonna look right. Now we do have these 221s in yellow. Yeah, look at the color difference here. This is what they should look like. And you could definitely tell they're very orange. The S models are great, but the yellow decals are orange. All right, let me think about that. We got a yellow 221. What else do we have in here? We got a 503. Just gonna leave these out. Let me look in one other place. And that's the Pinterest I created for Panzer IIs. Let's see how I can find this, because this is not a very user friendly. I have 8 pins. Panzer II C Pulku Perchernego in Russia. 2nd Panzer Division has one single white number. That's kind of cool. Might just do that. Here's one with an R14. That's regimental staff. This one's in Russian. It has 2-digit number, 21. They're larger. All right, so maybe I don't need to get a 3-digit number. All right. So, with that information, I'm going to take the 312 off. I don't like orange. I mean, it looks just fine. It's just the wrong color. It's just flat out the wrong color. It doesn't look believable. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and take this 312 off. Let's just go ahead and just pull the turret off. And we're going to use a 2-digit code on this one. Does that allow me to fit the 2-digit code in between, or a single-digit code? That will allow me to fit it in between those two markings. And I've got plenty of numbers that aren't too large to be a single-digit code, okay? So we're not interested in 312. We're also not interested in this 216 that is also orange. All right, let's take a look at these numbers we have over here. These are the 1/87th scale. I got them on purpose because I knew the numbers were going to be smaller. And let's just confirm we can't use any of these before I discount them as a 2-digit code. No, no. No, no. That 23 is in the wrong style and just isn't gonna make it. Here's a 1. Well, we could use all the ones that are the same style, Panzer twos, and give them all single digit codes. Okay, that looks like a winner. Those are in red. All right, let's try that. Let's try that. Let's leave this one out. All right, so we're going to take this one. This will be Panzer number 1. And let's put one on the back of the turret too. Do all 3 of these. Because I'm not interested in a Panzer III that has a 1-digit code for sure. Okay. Now, we have 3 of these vehicles. Now, we're about to cross in a second. Because that's the identifier for them as well. There'll be a chit that says Panzer II White 1, and that'll be the when it activates. So there needs to be some kind of identifier on them. They need to be unique. The stripe is just, this is the first thing to release, and it's just like an extra little thing there. Do I still have this open? I bet I do. Yeah, it should be fine. It's better than the orange. It's a shame because they're nice decals, but all right, we should have release all of this. There we go. There's a guy from work always used to use that terminology, releasal. All right, let's put this numeral 1 back of his little turret. These are some of the nicest decals I've worked with. It's the ones that came in the kit. All right, let's move to the side where we're going to put one that's in the middle. We're going to put one in between these vision blocks and put it towards that one. I don't want to put it on the angle of the turret. Let's close this up before we have an issue with it. Okay, let's take this off and throw it on the body and see what we're looking at. And it doesn't look that bright to me. That kickback on the light is just brutal. We have a little wooden thing to paint back there also. We'll put a single digit coat on this one as well. We're going to use this hollow 7. I don't really care for Mark IV or Mark III tanks with a single digit. A badass on a moped. What that sounds like. I think that looks pretty good. Now, we're going to put a cross on this one. And since it's a later one, man, I'm going to need a really, really small one. To fit back there. Let's see if I can pull that off. Some of these are duds. So I might need to find out if they're duds anyways. And I thought I was going to be able to paint some of them myself, but they don't look good enough for my taste. Oh, this one's tiny. This is from Hasagawa Panther. That one may just be the right size. That one right there. I'm going to cut that extra. Decal around it. That's what we need. Let's put that there. And this may be too old of a decal. We're about to find out. Let's minimize the size as much as we can of this around it. decals are really my favorite. They're thin. You get a lot of them in the kit. They release really fast. We'll put that on the back of the turret. I think these spots here on the hull are just too small. It's too small to fit something in there. Yeah, I almost need to get like some 15mm decals. And fit some of them somewhere. All right. I think it's still too big. I think we can make it work there. All right. That Panzer II. I don't know that the spot is big enough to, or small enough to. Which one of these is the smallest? I think they're all too big for that little spot to not go over the vision port. All right, what happened to this other one? We needed to repaint that spot. Yeah, some of that paint got consumed. All right, that should be a quick fix. Okay. It's an earlier model. Wait for that to dry for a little bit. And then meanwhile, we can dry brush this. Actually, let's wait a little bit. We'll give this guy a gloss coat on that spot. Now we'll dry brush. This one. We'll paint that little box afterwards. Oh, we've got that wooden thing to do also. Yeah, I'm not going to want that dry brushed. So let's paint that afterwards. All right, we need to find this one. Nope, that's flat earth. All right, I need my glasses to be able to see what's going on back here. It's this one. US Field Drab and Iraqi Sand, which should be this one. Yep. See if I can adjust this color. You guys are seeing something that's a lot brighter than it really is. Let's see. Yeah, that's a little closer. This light isn't the best for photography. It's super in your face. In your face. All right, let's leave this alone. Let's look over here to the dry brush brushes and see who we're going to abuse today. This looks like one that's been abused. That might be a good candidate for that. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and, before I do that, I'll give this other thing plenty of time to dry. We're going to use chocolate brown, as I'm using as a base for this. not the right paintbrush. Because I've done this before. And that's plenty of paint for what I'm doing. Good morning. Seems kind of strange tuning in and seeing what you're paying nowadays. Still the same excellent work, but different subject. Yeah, I'm not going to be painting 15s for a while. I'll come back to it eventually, but it won't be this year. That's not really saying that much considering the year's almost over with, but yeah, we got some Panzer Gray things to take care of. And then we'll do some Soviet vehicles. Keep running into small little hiccups that I have to think about how I'm going to solve. And it's not a big deal, but somehow this stuff is not carrying as well as it used to. Gotta wait for this to dry. It's unusual doing the tanks. I've got to wait for drying steps, which is not something I'm used to in 15s, so. Always painting something, just won't be necessarily what I've done the last 18 years. And since they're drying, F it, I'm going to go ahead and do these as well. Since this takes actually a little bit of time to dry, since there's a significant amount of paint on there. I could use craft paint for this, but all the stands I've ever handled, I've never had to repaint any of them using the Vallejo paint. It's thick enough that it's, wow, we're gonna have extra here. That'll work. This is the last one. This is the fourth one. Do you have an early Russian front game planned? I've got some. I've got to learn how to use the vehicle rules in this game. I've read them. I've never used them before, and that's what I'm going to test it with. Is the early Russian front. I've got a BT7 and a BA6 armored car. Both of them have a 45mm gun, so we'll test it with a Panzer III with a 37, which I have a couple of them, or maybe a 3 and a. I got to do one vehicle and one vehicle first, just to see how it plays. I've read it. It looks like it would be good, but I don't learn things well by reading without actually like getting my hands on it. I don't do well with the theory of things, but seems like it'd work okay. But it's not a tournament, so if there's something about it I don't like how it works out, I plan on changing it. I have no intention of playing another tournament game ever, probably. I'm tired of running into issues that can't ever be solved. So it's time to encounter a problem, solve it, document it, move forward, make a decision on how it's going to be played, and move forward. Kicking the can down the road is not very satisfying for me. So I kind of like that these rules are out of print. So don't have that problem. That's what happens when I left World War II. All kinds of shit's out of print. Well, I hadn't touched it in 20 years, so. All kinds of manufacturers no longer making stuff. All kinds of rules are no longer available. All the rules that have come out since then, for the most part, are all a lot more generic. And generic and World War II, I don't use in the same sentence. Doesn't scratch my itch. The Russian front, some interesting vehicles with all the lighter ones present. They do. They do. And I like the Germans in gray. That doesn't mean I won't do any late war German vehicles, but I like the German vehicles in gray. They look better with the troops. They mesh in better. And I've got plenty of them to do. I got plenty of them. Even with these Panzer IIs that I have left, I've got a long barrel 4. I got a 4 F2 to finish. A Czech 38. 3 Opel Blitz trucks. Probably 4 or so half tracks. That's all I can think of right now. I'm just enjoying painting these guys. You know, when it comes to a game, you're not going to be using all these vehicles that I have in one game. It's not that kind of game. You know, it's not one of these games where you go and, like rapid fire or something like that, you go and you play in 20 millimeter, and then when it's time to actually play the game, you can might as well glue your turret down because the turret facing doesn't matter. It's the opposite of that. It's not only does it matter which way the turret is facing, but you got to be able to rotate and hit your target. So it could be moving too close to you and at too fast a speed that you're not able to rotate the turret in time. So, hey, that's what I like to simulate. You know, you want to play more operational type games. I've done those before. That doesn't get me excited. There's no point in spending all this detail on these vehicles and then playing a set of rules that just kind of makes them all act the same. Not for me. Okay, so we've got some US Field Drab, which will end up being the second dry brush color on here, but we're going to bring that up on the vehicle. we'll do Iraqi sand after this. And I'm reading quite a few books on the early Russian front right now. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm usually reading stuff that has to do with what I'm working on at the time, just to kind of stay involved in the whole thing. Let's go ahead and do the back. But I do have lots of late war Russians, lots of late war Americans to do. I mean, quite a few Shermans already done. I started there because a lot of people have trouble getting excited about Shermans, but man, you could paint them all kinds of different ways and add all kinds of equipment and stuff to them, and they weren't bad tanks. I enjoyed giving them personality. And I have a fair amount of U.S. infantry already, so if I'm not working on the infantry, well, I got enough of them for the time being, to move forward. Just have to redo the basing on the infantry, which is very old school. The fun period about painting historical period is the research. Absolutely. It doesn't appeal to everybody, but it certainly appeals to me. You know, wargaming for me has always been about learning stuff. It always has been, and then, it's kind of like participating in it. Plus the creative aspect, obviously. But this is how I like to participate, not, going to a reenactment and, sleeping somewhere that is no fun. So that's at least the way I look at it. I do like doing the research, and there's all kinds of stuff that's available now that wasn't available 20 years ago when I was doing World War II. There's a series it's on Amazon. I don't remember what the hell it's called. Dust something or another. It's a kind of a mini series, and they're just really short episodes, and it's almost like I don't want to call it German Band of Brothers, because that's not really what it is, but it follows mainly one guy on the Eastern Front, and the storylines kind of suck, in my opinion. Mitch told me about it. I think the storylines kind of suck. But what's really good is they are firing real weapons that recoil, and they're probably shooting blanks, but that stuff's it's spot on. And starts kind of like after Kursk or whatever in 43 or what have you. Dusty Faces or something like that. It's called something like that. I'll look it up in a second. But It's a modern production from the Germans. And it's not a political movie. It's not trying to apologize or whitewash anything or not whitewash anything. It just focuses on the combat aspect. Did I do it again? I did it again, didn't I? This turret goes with this vehicle, not the other one. No, I didn't do it again. This is the one that goes with this vehicle. Why is it so hard to fit it in there? There we go. And we still have the lighter color to go over with. Not a fun period for the Germans. Nope. No, but I'm learning a lot of stuff about the Eastern Front. I was always a fan of it, but I'm learning a lot of stuff about the Eastern Front that I hadn't really thought about with logistics and shit like that, the stuff that I've been reading. Or haven't been read to me, put it that way. I don't want to go too much on that because I still have the sandy one to do. All right. Let's go to the Ratham Panzer II-F. This one also has a little box back there. And I already dry brushed this one some. I've kind of redoing this one, so to speak, so there are some leftover stuff on that one. We're not going to go very heavy with this one because, well, we are going to dry this off though. Dusty Faces, I think is what it's called. It's on YouTube. Let's see if I can pull that up in case you guys are interested. They're short little episodes. Let's do a search. Dusty Faces. And it's all in German. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's Dusty Faces. And there's like a dozen episodes or something like that. But all the weapons are all recoil, and so they must be shooting blanks or something like that. Which is, that's what I want to see in a war movie. I want to see, equipment in action. Equipment and tactics in action. I don't need a morality lesson. I don't want a propaganda movie. I just want to see, what would these guys look like, shooting whatever it is. Because it's, inspiration for doing this stuff. Definitely don't want a morality lesson in any movie, really. That's not what I'm there for. You get a morality lesson from your parents, not from Hollyweird stuff. Hollyweird. You see pictures of the German vehicles in the advance in 1941, and they are just covered in dust. And honestly, I think it looks pretty good. But I don't like using, dust effects on something where you're going to have a lighter color that's going to be working into the nooks and crannies of the detail. Even though it may look realistic, it makes your miniature just blah. It just blends into everything. War is hell no matter which side you're on. Absolutely. One of the things that I like the most about Saving Private Ryan as a movie, watching it, was that it showed one of those 20 millimeter cannons in action. One of those, I'll call it an auto cannon, because there's lots of vehicles. Now, that was an anti-aircraft gun, but it's still basically this weapon, this 20 millimeter cannon, just twice as long. These are 55 caliber, and that one's like a 112 or something like that. I forget exactly how. It's over 100 caliber weapon. It's a pretty long weapon. All right, as I like to say, let me step away from this so I can see what I'm doing. We still have the lighter color to do. Let's compare it to. Who's our guinea pig going to be? Let's take the SDKFZ 220, 231. They got more dusting on them than this one, but this was the first one that I did. Did we have one more to do? Oh, that one was, let's come back and do the final dry brush stage after we get this Panzer II also done. All right. We got to decide what numbering system. These all had single digits. I'm going to save the two S models. I'll use the two S model decals for them, which is a 412 and a 503. I'm going to save those for those. So I have this 221 that's not claimed by anybody. I think that's what I'm going to use. I really like the yellow numerals. They look really nice. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Here's the 312s that are floating, and from S model. S models are literally the nicest models I've ever built. But the UMs are the nicest decals. We're going to put a German cross on the back of this vehicle, on the turret. Let's cut this down to size. Let's just go ahead and take it out first. I think we should be able to fit this thing on here. Let me do a no-no, which is to cut on. No, I don't want to do that. I want to cut on this piece of plastic. This piece of plastic doesn't give, and I get a better cut on it. Just cut it right up to the cross. Okay. What's interesting about the vehicles you're painting is how in the future they were adapted to other uses. Absolutely. And I got a few of those other ones. Now that you said that, I got a Martyr 2 to do, one of the ugliest German vehicles ever. And it's missing some parts. So it's an MMS model. I'm going to have to. That was back when Jeff Franz and I would get together on Wednesdays and we'd order stuff from Brookhurst Hobbies and it'd arrive in just a few days and we'd go to town working on it. Brookhurst Hobbies, when I always used to say it'd get to us before we ever ordered it. Back in the early 90s. So I moved and I just threw them in a box and I'm missing some parts of it and I'm going to scratch build some of them. They don't have to be, IPMS. But too dangerous? It's not too dangerous because it's open topped. I don't think it even has a whole machine gun. It's perfect for skirmish. Got no freaking armor. You land a hit on that thing, it's over. Game over, man. Okay, that one's going to be on the back there. I know these guys are ready because these are UM decals, and the UM decals come off the paper faster and thinner than anything. Big fan of those. Man, the yellow looks good. We'll come and tinker with them in a moment. Adjust them. I just want to get this 221. Should be able to fit in between the two vision ports pretty easy. I don't like it going over one vision port or both. It looks wrong. Even though there's plenty of picture documentation that they did it, it doesn't look right. Man, the yellow looks sweet. That's what these other decals are supposed to be. Yellow, but they came out orange. I guess that's what color yellow is in China. Okay, that one fits nicely in between there. That one fits nicely there. Just absolutely beautiful. I love the yellow numbers. I'm sure the Russian armor, all the German modifications are not pretty but serve the purpose. I'm sure the Russian armor will respect these German changes. Yeah, I got two vehicles that mount that have that modified 76 millimeter Russian field gun, and that's the best weapon, other than other than a flak 88 until I don't know, the penetration on that might actually be better than an L48. But you're still going to have problems with KVs, but at least you got a chance of doing something to them. Your best defense against a German tank, against a Russian T-34 or KV early in the war, is just hoping that the crew on that Russian tank was green. That was literally the best thing you could hope for. Because other than that, they're just absolutely a beast to deal with. And the German guns pretty much sucked. Yeah, the 50 millimeter, the short 50 wasn't too bad, but just doesn't deal with sloped armor very well. Let's see what this looks like on the vehicle. It's my favorite one. I love those yellow numbers. Yeah, it's strange because this is a B. This is a B, so it's an early one, but obviously it's been retrofitted because it's got a cupola on it. The other ones don't. So, and you can tell how the coloration on it changes once you dust it up a little bit. And honestly, I like them either way. I'm fine with them being either way. Here's another one. I don't have much of that dust on the actual turret. But, man, I like those yellow numbers. Need more of those. Those are pretty much just a 1941 and earlier thing. And of course it looks a little different after you seal it. Yeah. Okay, so let's do the Iraqi sand coating on them. Is this dry or still kind of? Yeah, looks like this kind of in between. All right, let's get this out of the way. Let's pull Iraqi sand out. Unfortunately, all the early war newsreel. It's kind of part of a sentence. I bet you're going to say that it's all in black and white. But some of the color footage is actually a disservice because, it doesn't really look that color that it's shown. So you got to use some artistic license. But man, it's nothing compared to doing ancients and shit like that, where you're just really just pulling things out of the sky. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but all right, Panzer II. Start with a running gear, because if you lay it on too thick, you can at least fix it a little bit better. Don't have to go super heavy with this. pretty much all the German tanks, I'm sure there's probably exceptions of it, but most of the German tanks had tracks that were all metal. So even if the engine was silent, you're not sneaking up on anybody. They could hear you a mile away. Excellent. I do the same thing with this little guy. Yeah, unlike ancients, you know who all these people were. Had a dream the other night. Well, I don't remember. It wasn't that memorable, but it was something along the lines that I was working on tanks and I decided to put a swastika flag on one of the tanks, and people had a cow over it, and probably still going to do it. I may not film it from that angle or whatever, but if you check into my channel and think I'm promoting that nonsense, you obviously have just started tuning into me, because that's not the case. But it would have to be an early war tank, like, up to 41. He did it in 42 as well. And I've even seen some examples in later than that. But after 1943, German air recognition is basically like trees. They want to stay hidden. They want to stay hidden before. They just basically didn't have any consistent air superiority. They had it at some points on the Eastern Front, but I mean, just like in on the Eastern Front, there was parts even when the Russian Air Force got crushed, because it's so big, they could just show up in certain places and actually come in and do some nasty attacks on the Germans. With a front that big, there's just opportunities of things getting through. And I think I've seen pictures of Soviet vehicles with the Soviet flag draped over. Not that often, but I'm pretty sure I have seen it. Oh, that's okay too. Equal opportunity. They can have it too. Can use all these German vehicles and soldiers and all the campaigns 39. I can, but I have zero interest in doing anything before Barbarossa. I just don't. I'm just not interested in doing France. And it's not because of the French, it's actually because of the German vehicles. I don't want to do Poland because the White Crosses just don't work for me. I mean, I could just use them and just say, you just have a regular thing. I don't like German vehicles without the turret. Panzer IIs I can handle. The little turret storage. And they didn't come really into use until Barbarossa. They just look weird. It looks weird like a Panzer 4D with the whole back of the turret smooth. And I know I built one in 1/35th scale. And I'm like, I'm not building it that way. It just doesn't look right. And unfortunately, I have a couple of Panzer 3Fs that don't have it. And they still look weird to me. And you could find pictures of them in Invasion of Russia, the vehicles that don't have it. But they just don't settle well with me. That's really the reason why. The earliest thing I would do would be North Africa from the get-go. North Africa in 41. So that'd be what, April? But before that, I'm just not interested in doing anything. All right, let's not go totally overboard. But one of our local players, Joel, he's doing rapid fire and he's doing France. He's doing BEF versus the Germans. So, just because I'm not interested in it doesn't mean other people aren't. That's just the reason why I don't do it. Like I don't do Panzer Crews and those stupid berets. It just doesn't look right. The berets that the British use, those look good. The German bump cap beret things look ridiculous, like you're gonna sell shitty bread or something. How about the Balkans? Just not interested in painting any of the infantry for it. It just didn't last long enough. I think Norway could be interesting, but I like early war if I'm doing naval. A lot. But land combat, you got. I'm not really interested in doing squad style actions when the Germans didn't have a couple of MP40s in the squad. You start doing like really early war and you have the squad leader and the assistant squad leader both have Mausers, and it's like, that's starting to be a little too World War One-ish for me as well. But, I'm leaving opportunities for other people to do it. The French infantry actually wouldn't be bad to do. I wouldn't mind doing that. And their tanks are, of course, awesome looking. Very creative. Let's paint some wooden things on here. Give these guys a little bit of depth. I really don't want to pull this out, but I will. There's just periods that appeal to one person and don't appeal. Like, I'm not particularly interested in Stalingrad. I never have been. It's never interested me. It involved German units that I didn't think were very interesting. You start doing World War II and you've got all kinds of units that have, background information you can learn about them. Some of them are, in my opinion, more interesting than others. And, like I've never seen anybody do British in Italy. Never. I think that's an opportunity. If I ever do, late war British, I'm probably going to do them in Italy. Just because nobody really does them, and there's a fair amount of information on all that stuff. And it is basically an infantry war. And the only problem with doing Italy is buildings. There isn't that much stuff in Italian buildings in 20 millimeter as there is in, Normandy and so forth. But wouldn't mind doing some, and not casino stuff, but tanks in really heavily built up areas just aren't You don't want them out in the Ukraine either. Just somewhere in between the two. Somewhere in between the two situations. Yeah, I like early. Or I like early war naval a lot, especially the Mediterranean. Man, we used to play the hell out of the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean is just like perfect for wargaming. Both sides can have aircraft. Both sides have significant fleets that could put ships of all dimensions out on there. They both run escorting runs. They both intercept convoy. They both run convoys. They both intercept convoys. It's just like perfect. You know, the British ships are my British World War II ships are some of my favorite. They got the best names out there. Cool camouflage things. Sure, they're not perfect. They've got deficiencies in armor sometimes with the cruisers and stuff like that. They have deck armor, and then some cruisers will have like deck armor and belt armor, and that's it. So you got no heavy armor protecting the turrets. So whoops, and then later they started adding that stuff on there. But Italian ships are just gorgeous. Vichy, Syria. Nah, I'm not painting the infantry on. I'm not opposed to doing the Western Desert. What the hell was that all about? Even Italians, I have no problem doing Italians in the desert. But I have no infantry painted for the desert. I actually have no figures other than old MPC stuff. The old Airfix figures that were rebranded here in the States as MPC from the early 80s. You get them at like KB Toys and what was the other place? There was a couple of chains that were always in the malls. KB and another one. And they had models. I remember those you have 1/6000 early war British and Italian. Yeah, if I got back into it, that's what I'd do. I'd do 6,000 scale. It's a good compromise for. But that's what we used to do. I remember playing a game with Jeff Franz. He was there, and both of us played Italians. We had a. Is I wouldn't do weird shit like what happened if the Yamato. No, it would be like well, my favorite one was not actual battles that happened, but battles that almost happened. So you could find like the order of battle of maybe a sortie that the Italians went on, and maybe if they ran into the British that were there. They may not have engaged each other in real life, but everything was there for it to happen. And I remember we were playing on some 10 by 12 table or something like that. It was really, really big. And we started in opposite corners, and we split our forces 50-50. We each took a old battleship, I think the Giulio Cesare and Andrea Doria or something like that, Conte de Cavour, one of those things, and a couple heavy cruisers, and we split our forces in half. And by the end of the game, we had gone from one corner all the way like 8 or 9 feet down each side, and we're attacking the Brits from both sides. Good times, but Walling 1/2400 scale. And that's all we used to play in the late 80s, early 90s was Sea Creek 4. Good times. But you couldn't pay me to range estimate, play a game with range estimation. That's way too much work. Way too much work. Met Jeff when he was at Fort Leavenworth several years ago. We crossed swords and DVA several times. Yeah, he's still got all his Figures, I talked to him a little while ago. He's like, hey, I'm thinking about getting back into it. And I'm like, okay, I'm done playing it. I've moved on. I will play Ancients, but it will not be DBA. It will be DBA Armyless. I'm going to go and work on some of my own stuff. That'll still be, it'll be DBA-ish. It just won't be tournaments, and just tired of things coming up and not be resolved. So it's a good time to jump ship, because there's no national interest in really going and playing tournaments. So I really am not going to play tournaments anymore. I'm not interested in being that competitive. I would rather play a game that creates an interesting narrative. But and nail in the coffin was just, trying to promote the game for a couple of years for the next convention. Historicon shows up, promote it everywhere, and nobody shows up to play it, which is fine, but I'm not going to hold myself to hostage anymore to that. Somebody else can do that if they want to. There's that little wood block that appears mysteriously on German vehicles, and it's a little block that goes under the jack. The mysterious wooden block. Well, I will let you know when it is that we produce it. It is going to be a long time coming, because unlike anything that is put together by, just say, Warlord Games or something like that, it will not be out until it's ready, and it'll be free. That's not my interest is in doing that, and it will take from different rule sets that work. Lots of rule sets have things that work, and I don't have a problem giving people credit. Unlike other rules that have been sold, they've taken other people's ideas and sold them, and then don't give anybody any credit. I think that's intellectually dishonest. I wasn't raised to. Nobody had to tell me to do that, to not do that. That's just dishonorable. I wouldn't want somebody else taking my shit and not even mentioning me. You got to give credit where credit's due. So it's nothing against Phil. Still got to use Phil's Army list. Still got to buy 3.0. Or whatever Army list you want to use. You want to use early armies, it doesn't really matter. But I'm basically interested in playing scenarios with him. Play historical scenarios, get excited about history. Play both sides, a quick game, But I told Mitch this week, I said I need to move my game night to Tuesday. I'm not coming on Mondays anymore. Well, not every Monday, because you can't work on stuff when you have too many people show up. Or there's one guy that started showing up now, and he's a hell of a nice guy, but he has no DBA history. So I don't really want to teach him how to play a game that we don't play anymore, and then say, oh, by the way, this is how it's going to be now, and he has no frame of reference as to whether or not the changes that we made are in the right direction. So just take it one step at a time. It's going to be a work in progress, and it's going to go slower than I would like, but got real world stuff to do. But building armies isn't going to be my priority, and it's not going to undo any of the armies that I already did. So that would be a deal breaker. I'm not giving up all the time that I've spent on that, but there's a couple nails in the coffin. Another nail in the coffin, this guy disappeared from the scene for 15 years, and he wants to come back, and he wants to run this, and he wants to do this other thing, and wants to do the other thing, and I'm like, where have you been, dude? You've done no heavy lifting. And I asked him, I said, well, we do have a lot of videos we put out there. He's like, oh, you guys put out videos? I'm like, you want to be in charge, but you don't know that we've been promoting this freaking game for this long is just kind of insulting. Like, okay, you just go ahead and just take off with it and have fun with it, you know. I don't have anything bad to say about DBA. I'm not taking the videos that I've done off my channel. You know, we did them as good as we could have. We try to do a good job with it, and you know, and hopefully it's been helpful for some other folks. But it's time to do bigger and better things while I'm mentally capable of doing them. So. But I have no interest in it being published. It'll end up being somewhere online that'll be free, and because that's what'll happen is you'll find some kind of rule. They just come out with like Warlord Games or somebody will come up with a rule, and before it even hits the shelves, they're already in errata. So it's really difficult for new people to say, okay, well here's the rules, but don't use this page. Pull this thing down from this site, and people keep at it's just like here's one place where it's at. When there's changes, you take the old one down, so you can't get it anymore. The new changes will be in green or red or something like that. And it'll be, you know, version 1.001 or '02 or 3 or whatever. And then as long as you've got the latest version, you've got the latest thing. But, you know, you have a group of about 15 still play 2.2, but I do see a lack of interest by new gamers. We have about 6 who get together every other Monday for DBA. We do other games from time to time. Yeah, it's got to be easier for new people to pick up. I just got tired of, you know, regardless if it's 2.2 or 3.0, of trying to promote somebody else's rule set that is done in a way that is not, that's torturous for those of us that are trying to get people interested in the rule set. And it has roadblocks that people constantly have a problem with and are difficult to understand. You know, one of the best things you could do about understanding a rule set is teach people how to play. But after a while, you know, you get tired of anything that you say in the rules, like, well, I know it doesn't make sense to me either, but that's the rules. That's a rule that needs to be changed, in my opinion. So, it won't be called DBA 4.0 or anything like that. It'll be something completely different, and you know, it may not happen. You know, it's possible that it may not happen, but we're taking extremely small bites. We're not changing 50 things. We're changing one thing. All right, did that make the game better or worse? Better. Okay, cool. Now let's add one thing. Did that make the game better or worse? No, you know, that type of thing. You start changing 50 things and you're like, well, it doesn't work now, and we can't figure out why. So I don't have a time frame when it's got to be done by, but, you know, we'll see. And if I am going to work on something different, I really can't be the go-to guy for running tournaments, because I'm honestly going to get confused unintentionally and lead people astray, and that's the last thing I want to do. And it's really unsatisfying for me to play games incorrectly. That's... But it's also really frustrating as someone who's a fixer, so to speak, to have a game that can never be fixed. And you want to promote. I mean, if you're playing with, you know, 3 people, you can make up your rules whatever you want, but you need to have more people playing the game, because sometimes the 3 people that play don't show up. You know? So yeah, the last 2 years, I got really tired of playing Minority Whip. Basically, okay, you come to the con, when's the con? The con's only freaking 2 times a year, and it's always the same time. I mean, if you're interested, show up. If not, you know, don't show up. Or did you see this last thing? No, I didn't. Where you been? I just got tired of herding cats. I already do that for a living, and it's very unsatisfying. I want to do that as my hobby, too. And just tired of the nonsense of trying to coordinate who's going to run at what convention. Are you going to have to wear a burqa at the convention or wear masks? Or I'm just like, I'm just done with it, you know. I'm just done with the nonsense. I'm not gaming in person not seeing people's faces. I'd rather not game. Okay, Steve, thanks for stopping by. Catch you guys maybe tomorrow morning. Long weekend of painting. And I'll be stopping here soon too. I see that. Understand that here the girls are up. So actually we're gonna go ahead and stop right now. So that's where we're at so far. Of course I don't know what the hell they look like. Got my face all up in them. Yeah. That's pretty good. Can't really tell until you spray them. Something magic happens when you spray them. But okay, well, thank